Near absolute protection. That is not a marketing claim. That is FEMA's own classification for the monolithic dome. It survives EF5 tornadoes. It survives Category 5 hurricanes. It survives earthquakes. A basic shelter version costs under $10,000. The Pantheon used the same principle. It has stood for 1,900 years. A conventional home loses heat within hours of a power failure. A monolithic dome held comfortable temperatures for 2 days at -30. The owners did not notice. Not until the water heater went cold. Annual energy cost for one documented dome home, under $950. This is the construction method that FEMA funds, the military studied, and 6 ancient civilizations built independently. This briefing explains exactly why most Americans cannot build one. Over 1,000 monolithic dome homes stand in the United States right now. FEMA has funded dozens of dome-safe rooms through its Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The dome meets or exceeds every U.S. building code for structural strength, fire resistance, and energy performance. Yet most suburban zoning codes effectively prohibit it. The median American home costs $332,000. An EF3 tornado will destroy it. A dome costs comparable money. It survives an EF5. The question is not whether it works. The question is why it is not everywhere. To understand why this structure threatens every assumption American housing was built on, begin where all domes begin, 21,000 years ago. In what is now Ukraine, along the Dnieper River, ancient humans stacked the bones of woolly mammoths into domed shelters. Dated to 19,280 years before the Common Era. Among the oldest man-made structures ever found, they were not rectangles, they were curves. The Inuit built igloos in the Arctic, compressed snow, dome shape, warm enough to sustain life at 60 below. In Central Africa, the Efe people wove leaf domes from bent saplings. In the American Southwest, the Anasazi built corbelled kivas between 900 and 1250 AD underground, circular, stone upon stone curving inward until the dome closed. Across Central Asia, Turkic and Mongolian peoples lived inside yurts for 1,000 years. In the Middle East, beehive domes made of clay and stone sheltered families for centuries. 6 civilizations, 6 landmasses, no contact between them, all arrived at the same geometry. Then Rome built the proof that still stands. The Pantheon, 142 feet in diameter, 4,535 tons of concrete. Completed around 126 AD, it is the largest unreinforced concrete dome ever built. It is the oldest continuously used structure in human history. Roman engineers varied the concrete aggregate. Heavy travertine at the base, lighter volcanic scoria, and pumice toward the crown. The walls are 20 feet thick at the base. They taper to 7.5 feet at the oculus. Michelangelo stood beneath it and called it angelic and not human design. The Monolithic Dome Institute calls it arguably the first monolithic dome. 1,900 years. Still standing. No steel reinforcement, no maintenance budget, no repairs. Modern concrete structures crumble in decades. The Pantheon does not. The bridge to the modern era begins with a radio broadcast. In 1956, a young man named David B. South heard Buckminster Fuller talking about geodesic domes. South spent years building them. He rejected them as impractical. Too many joints, too many failure points, too many leaks. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place, potato storage. In Idaho, workers were spraying polyurethane foam insulation onto the walls of agricultural storage buildings. South saw the material. He saw the shape. He saw the method. In April of 1976, in Shelley, Idaho, the first monolithic dome was built, 105 feet in diameter, 35 feet tall. It stored potatoes. The process was patented in 1979. The first dome home was built in 1978. It was built for their mother, Marjorie South. The most advanced residential structure in America was born from spraying insulation onto a potato shed. They removed it from the code. They cannot remove it from the ground. Subscribe. The next briefing drops soon. Now, let us get back to the investigation. The construction method uses 5 steps. Each one matters. First, a concrete ring foundation is poured on the ground. Second, an airform is inflated on top of it. This is a PVC-coated fabric balloon manufactured to the exact shape and size of the finished dome. Third, polyurethane foam insulation is sprayed onto the interior surface of the airform, 3 inches thick. Fourth, a grid of steel rebars hung from hangers embedded in the foam. Fifth, not just shotcrete, concrete sprayed at high velocity, is applied in layers over the rebar, 4 inches thick at the crown, 8 inches at the base. Here is the critical detail. The insulation is on the outside of the concrete. This is the opposite of every conventional home in America. In a stick-built house, insulation sits between thin walls. The concrete is exposed to interior air. In a dome, the massive concrete shell sits inside the insulation. It becomes a thermal battery. The physics are not complicated. A dome is a double-curved surface. Force striking a curve distributes in every direction at once. A flat wall catches wind like a sail. A dome deflects it. FEMA requires safe rooms to withstand 250 mile-per-hour winds. That translates to 300 pounds per square foot of pressure. The continuous dome shell distributes that load across the entire structure. No joints, no seams, no point where failure begins. Now the thermal performance. Every pound of concrete stores approximately 1 BTU of heat energy across a 5-degree temperature range. A 50-foot dome weighs 200,000 pounds. That is 200,000 BTUs of thermal storage sitting inside the insulation. Engineers measuring heat loss through dome shells have calculated effective R values exceeding 100. A well-insulated conventional home achieves R19 to R30. Thermographic imaging of dome exteriors shows heat loss at virtually zero. The heat stays in the concrete. The concrete stays inside the insulation. The insulation faces the weather, RR100 versus R30. That is not incremental improvement. That is an order of magnitude. One honest caveat. The dome's airtight shell traps moisture and carbon dioxide. Mechanical ventilation is not optional. An energy recovery ventilator exchanges stale air for fresh air while recovering heat energy. The dome is not a passive structure. It is a sealed thermal system. It requires intentional air exchange design. Without it, indoor air quality degrades. This is a solvable problem. But it must be solved at design stage. A structure that holds comfortable temperatures at -30 without power. A shell that deflects 250 mile-per-hour winds. A lifespan measured in centuries. This is not theoretical. FEMA knows. The question every viewer should now be asking is the one the system does not want answered. The average American home loses heat within hours of a power outage. One monolithic dome family experienced a full heating system failure for 2 days. Exterior temperature, -30 degrees. Wind chill, -52. They did not notice until the water heater went cold. The concrete held, the insulation held, the thermal mass carried them through. Another dome owner heated his home with Christmas lights. When those burned out, a single ceiling fixture with 5 bulbs kept the space comfortable. One documented dome home reports total annual energy costs under $950. A 2,700 square foot dome in Virginia consumed the same energy as a 1,400 square foot conventional home. Nearly twice the size. Same energy. If a structure this effective exists, is FEMA certified, and costs the same or less to build, why is the viewer not living in one right now? 3 interlocking systems provide the answer. The first is zoning. Most suburban zoning codes never mention the word dome. They do not need to. Aesthetic ordinances specify roof pitch, exterior materials, and architectural style. One Utah city requires a 312 roof pitch. A dome's near flat apex disqualifies it automatically. Codes specify clapboard siding, brick facades, colonial or ranch styling, minimum roof overhangs. Homeowner association covenants reject non-rectangular construction. The courts uphold architectural review boards, enforcing what they call consistent and harmonious design. The Monolithic Dome Institute itself advises prospective builders, do not start by telling the planning office you want to build a dome. No federal protection exists for dome construction comparable to protections for solar panels or satellite dishes. The second is appraisal. Federal lending rules require 3 comparable sales of similar design in the local area. Over 1,000 dome homes exist in the United States, but they are spread across the entire country. Dome owners rarely sell. Appraisers cannot establish value. After the 2008 financial crisis, rules tightened further. David South wrote in 2013 that banks are legally prohibited from financing homes whose value cannot be appraised based on local comparables. Here is the paradox that should be remembered. Property tax offices assess dome values for taxation with no difficulty. The system can value the dome when it wants to collect revenue. Today, it cannot value the dome when asked to fund one. The third mechanism is lending. Without an appraisal, no conventional mortgage is issued. Workarounds exist: community banks, personal credit lines, collateral from other properties, hard money lenders at punishing interest rates. But every workaround adds cost and complexity that buyers of conventional homes never face. The structural catch-22 is self-reinforcing. Few domes exist, so no comparable sales. No comparables, so no appraisal. No appraisal, so no loan. No loan, so few new domes get built. The cycle sustains itself. It requires no conspiracy, no secret meetings, no villains. Follow the money. U.S. residential construction exceeds $900 billion annually. The dome eliminates or drastically reduces demand for lumber, for roofing materials, for siding, for conventional insulation, for large HVAC systems. The HVAC industry alone loses 60 to 75% of equipment sales per dome built. A conventional home needs a new roof every 15 to 30 years. Periodic siding replacement, regular termite treatment, ongoing structural repairs. The dome needs virtually none of this. The maintenance cycle that sustains roofing companies, siding installers, pest control firms, and renovation contractors simply does not apply. They did not ban the dome. They built a system around the assumption that every home would be rectangular, wood-framed, and covered in a pitched roof. The dome was excluded not by targeting but by omission. The practical effect is identical to a ban in most jurisdictions. No one with institutional power has a financial incentive to change the system. One final observation. The monolithic dome cannot be patented in its general form. It cannot be metered. It cannot generate a subscription. Once built, it stops producing revenue for nearly everyone in the construction supply chain. A product that eliminates its own aftermarket is structurally incompatible with an industry built on recurring material purchases. This is not accusation, it is economic observation. Now the proof that it is beatable. Monolithic Constructors operates in Italy, Texas, run by Michael South, Dave South, and Gary Clark. Dome Technology was founded in Idaho Falls in 1988 by Barry South. South Industries operates in Idaho, founded by Randy South. Trilakes Construction builds in Colorado. The Monolithic Dome Institute runs semi-annual workshops training builders from around the world. The disaster survival record is not theoretical. The dome known as GoldenEye survived Hurricane Michael's 160-mile-per-hour winds in Florida. Surrounding homes were destroyed. A California forest fire ran over a dome, unscathed. An EF5 tornado struck an Ohio dome. The owner survived inside. One homeowner filmed from inside his dome as the eye of a Category 5 hurricane passed overhead. Maranatha Church near Houston, 208 feet in diameter, sheltered a dozen members during Hurricane Rita, while millions sat gridlocked on evacuation highways. At the University of British Columbia, engineers placed 5.5 tons of sandbags on a 24-foot dome and subjected it to simulated earthquake conditions. The dome held. FEMA has funded dome projects across the country. The Delaware State Park Tornado Shelter in Ohio covers 5,410 square feet with a capacity of 856 people. The Louisville Community Safe Room in Mississippi shelters 2,218. The Bison Activity Dome in Central City, Nebraska, opened in December of 2022. It was the first FEMA safe room in Nebraska. It seats 2,100. It shelters 2,800. FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program covers up to 75% of construction costs. The federal government pays to build these, while its own lending rules prevent citizens from financing one. Current pricing: finished dome homes run $100 to $250 per square foot. Owner built with sweat equity, $100 to $180. A basic survival shelter shell for under $10,000. Payson Elementary in Arizona was built at $64 per square foot in 1994. The statewide average that year was $84. A 34,000 square foot dome church near Houston saves an estimated $60,000 per year in energy costs. Its monthly natural gas bill, $72. A conventional building that size would pay closer to $1,000. The code did not account for it. The appraisal system cannot value it. The lending framework cannot finance it. The insurance industry has no category for it. The lumber industry does not supply it. The roofing industry does not maintain it. The HVAC industry barely services it. The dome does not care. It stands. 21,000 years of human beings arriving at the same answer. A curve, a shell, mass between you and the weather. The Pantheon still standing while modern buildings crumble around it. The family at -30 who slept through 2 days without heat. The man who filmed a Category 5 from his living room. The material is in the ground. The physics are not negotiable. The builders are named. The workshops are running. The FEMA funding exists. The only thing missing is the loan. And people are building without it. Every share of this briefing spreads what was buried. Every view makes the knowledge harder to suppress. The ground does not require a permit. The curve does not need approval. The concrete does not read the code. The next briefing covers a structure that was standard issue for 170,000 American military families during World War II. It could be erected in a single day. It cost almost nothing. After the war, the government tried to make it disappear. That investigation dropped soon.